Welcome to another episode, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, episode 212. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, I'm Gail from Communities Digital News, Jacob from Jap Hook, and he's been off for a while on Pound for Pound Boxing, but he's back this evening, both from Truth and Facts as well as Three Kings Boxing. What's going on, lady and gents?
Hey, the A team is back tonight, and we got plenty to talk about.
Indeed, and hopefully this will have a distraction from what's going on in politics because, that's pretty disheartening. What we've been hearing the past few days. Hopefully, give you welcome relief from that. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, live YouTube show, podcast, and blog discussing all things boxing. The motto is, when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, we will talk about it. If you want to find out all information regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, blog page is the place to go to, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. That's the link. You check the right of the page, and you will find links to our channels and pages on Twitter, G+, YouTube, Facebook, Tumblr, as well as links to where to listen to the show, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitch Radio, Player FM for the folks over in the UK, as well as Mixcloud. And I see Daniel has joined us from the Inscriber. What's going on, Daniel? Let's get things going. Recapping what went down last week. Not a lot of fights to talk about. I'm going to focus on two fights in particular. Errol Spence making his homecoming defense in Dallas against Carlos Ocampo. Last week, I questioned the legitimacy of Ocampo being number one contender. And I'll go to you, boss. It's been a while since you've been on here. No ladies first this time, Gail. My apologies.
Nope. I believe in equality, and it goes both ways.
And it showed, that fight showed why I questioned his ranking on Campos, as Spence took him out in the first round. Vicious body shot, right hook to the body. I know it was brief, but talk about the fight itself, and also talk about the future for Errol Spence. I know since Terrence Crawford's win over Jeff Horn almost over a week ago now, there's been a clamoring among hardcore and even mainstream heads for a Crawford-Spence showdown sometime down the line. Your thoughts?
First off, thank you for having me here. I'm so glad to be back. I want to send a personal prayer to our famous redhead and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Ex-lover Gail. Thank you.
I thank you. I thank you despite that.
And I echo those sentiments for those who don't know. Gail was off last week. She's dealing with some issues regarding her family. So thoughts and best wishes to you and yours, Gail.
Thank you. Continue on, gentlemen.
At first, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm glad to be here. First, when I heard that, I was like, Mike, you being a hater. That's the first thing I thought. Mike, you're being a hater. But then you start looking and you start doing some digging, and to a certain degree, you do have a point to question the legitimacy of Ocampo, because a lot of times in these ranking systems, you get guys like, perfect example, Bermain Stavern, who was ranked number one by the WBC after fighting Derek Rossi 2 years ago. So you definitely, when you look at it, you definitely have some legitimacy there to question it. But at the same time, these ranking systems, I remember when they tried to move that dude from the WBO, they tried to move that one guy out and just somehow put Carnello in there. So they all do some shady things and question the legitimacy of how they rank. What point system are they using? That's not a problem. But also, let's keep in mind too, is that a lot of times what happened with the IBF is sometimes you don't have a number one or a number two not rated, and it might be the third or fourth guy who winds up getting that mandatory shot position. But he was undefeated, and for a slight brief moment, Ocampo, when he started letting his hands go, you can see maybe a little bit of confidence in him, and Errol quickly put that fire out. He's like, nope, I'm not even gonna let this I'm not even gonna let this smoke boil too high. And he quickly put it out. I think that what you saw is just a combination of all things that we've been watching with the progression of Errol Spence, to where per every fight, he's showing you the separation between him. You know, it's like Errol Spence is doing what we kind of was hoping Broner would do, which is separate yourself from the B and C level fighters to that elite level guy. And that's what Errol Spence, if you look at some of his fights, his progression have shown us that this is a guy who's letting everyone know, don't put me in the same category as these guys. I'm above them. And I believe I'm above them. And I'm going to show you why I'm above them. And I've always said this. I like guys who get guys out of there that they feel they shouldn't have no ring. And if you feel like he shouldn't have no business in the ring with you, then get him out of there. Don't go no 12. Get him the hell out of there. And I like seeing that in guys like that. So, but as far as the Spence Crawford fight, how sad is it that this is eclipsing Keith Thurman? Keith Thurman is literally watching everyone else pass him over.
Yeah.
The welterweight division is moving on so much so that Keith Thurman is no longer the talk of big fights. He's the butt of big jokes.
He's darn near irrelevant, Bo, right now.
Yeah. And that's very unfortunate because it's very unfortunate because you hate to see any fighter in their prime who once upon a time that, you know, you felt he was this guy. And then all of a sudden, it's not because he lost in the ring, just from a mental standpoint, you just feel like what's going on with this guy. And you really hate to see that. So I'm not saying it's too late for him, but what we have right now, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford is that super fight. That's our the welterweight division has always been great for having super fights. You've had the Hearns and Leonard, you've had the Leonard and Duran, Floyd and Manny Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya, at his time there. Now we have our modern day Spence and Crawford. So I like it. I think it's great because you're talking about, which is again goes to Keith Thurman. You're talking about two young guys that has that dog in them. And these are guys who want to fight each other. And I even like what both of them said. They was both on the Breakfast Club and even ESPN. They both said, listen, that fight's going to happen. We just, the politics is going to have to play itself out, but the fight's definitely going to happen. And I like hearing that because they're showing you that, yeah, we want to fight each other, but we also know that, there's a business side to this as well. So, once that stuff get worked out, of course we'll fight. So, everything leading up to this fight, the conversations about the fight, even the breakdown, I mean, everything about it is beautiful, but it's just kind of sad because, Porter and Garcia is fighting, but outside of that, nobody's talking about Keith Thurman. I think it's sad that guy who was trying to be the man of the welterweight division is, and again, Thurman fought Porter and Garcia, but it's almost like that doesn't mean anything to anybody because boxing is like a Janet Jackson song. What have you done for me lately? And that's what boxing is. And lately, it's been Spence and Crawford making the moves, not Thurman. Hopefully, he gets back soon, but we'll see.
Indeed. Shout out to those who are listening, who are watching us on YouTube right now. MB, Sean, EJ. EJ, check your Facebook message, private message on Facebook. I'm going to open up the discussion here for everyone else here, starting with you, Gail. Everybody open your mics, please. Kind of piggyback on Bo's point about how Keith Thurman is becoming almost an afterthought as you give your breakdown of what went down and the future for Errol Spence. And also for Jacob and Daniel, there was some pushback at Spence because when they asked him after the fight who he liked to fight, the name Terrence Crawford didn't cross his lips, and people were like, "Okay, that's the fight that folks want to see. How come you didn't mention it?" Were you put off by that? First, you, Gail, and then you, Jacob and Daniel, and I see EJ Boxing Live has joined us. You can jump into the conversation as well.
Yeah, well, we knew we were going to get a beat down this weekend, courtesy of Mr. Spence, and the truth does hurt. It really does. That body assault was a thing of beauty. There's nothing I love more than somebody that does body work that pretty. I didn't think it would be quite that quick or quite that bad, but you really never know with guys that come out of Mexico and some of these other countries that are deep in a lot. a lot of bodies. You just don't know what the level of opposition has been. And he was only 22. This could be, a good wake up for him. Tells him he's got to go back to the drawing board. And, we may see Carlos Ocampo again. Fair enough. As for Spence not calling out Crawford, I am not put off by that at all. He's got plenty of other business to take care of. First of all, we're going to see him fight, I imagine, the winner of Garcia versus Porter. Perfect fight for him. Perfect step up. That's exactly where he needs to go. Those guys are known quantities, unlike Ocampo. So we'll really be able to tell a lot. The two are starting to head down the tracks toward each other. They'll get there. I think boxing fans can be way too impatient sometimes. Really, really impatient. There's plenty of good fights for both those guys before they have to cross paths. And I expect maybe, I don't know if it'll be late next year that we see it. But, you are so right. Where is Keith Thurman? It went from one time to some time to no time. No time for boxing, apparently. And the word behind the scenes from a lot of people that I know, I have to repeat it secondhand because I do not know this firsthand, but I'm hearing repeatedly over and over that Keith, almost all but retired. He's pretty happy with life. Not got quite the same burning drive work ethic that it takes. And he's kind of working with his friends at PBC and Uncle Al to get ready for one big cash out fight with Spence. And that's the fight that he's going to need, Spence is going to need to make sure, he gets the respect he deserves. That's a fight he's got to check that off his list. Unfortunately, I'm concerned about what version of Keith Thurman we're going to see at that point. Is it 8 months from now, a year from now? Does Thurman take a tune-up fight? He really should. Does he feel like he's stooping if he does? It's a very interesting thing we're seeing happen because arguably up to recently, you would still, even after all the inactivity, you'd still have to have Thurman at the top of that division. But, he's holding on absolutely by his flute play and fingernails. That's it. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered about his status.
Bring Daniel Jacob, EJ to this. I'm sorry, EJ, I had to mute your mic. There was some background noise going on. Your thoughts on this fight and what Bo and Gail has discussed in terms of how Keith Thurman has become irrelevant, as well as the rumors of him saying claiming that he's basically done.
As far as the fight itself, it was an expected outcome. We knew that Spence was going to pretty much destroy Ocampo one way or another. The main thing about it was that came off a little bit impressive was that Ocampo at least didn't go down not swinging. For most of that round, he exchanged with Spence. He tried to land shots to the body. He wasn't very much in the back, but just mainly that body punch just got him. And normally when you land that perfect shot on the liver the way Spence did, it'll keep you down. I'm not really surprised that he called out Garcia and Porter because Spence is one of the PBC fighters that is pretty smart knowing his promotional situation. He knows logistically he really cannot call out Bud right now because the mechanics don't work. So it's going to go to the fighters that are available and he's going after the top guys. And the problem's going to be, though, for Spence, is he willing to sacrifice time to wait for that? Especially if Garcia winds up winning against Porter. If Garcia wants to lose against Porter, we know Angel Garcia is probably going to want to try to do as much as possible to make sure that Danny doesn't face Spence next. And that's where everything else comes in, which actually, almost enough, Ugas, the Cuban welterweight, comes into the picture because he's the next ranked guy in the IBF. And that, it may not be a name that likes really top highlight A caliber name, but it may be something that Spence has to think about if he wants to stay active. As far as Thurman, though, I think you mentioned it a while back when it came to this. Like, his situation kind of looks like Kazutoyoka's. And if people don't remember, Kazutoyoka, Japanese fighter, wind up retiring before he was even 30, I think, or 30 or 31. His father essentially announced his retirement because he said he doesn't have the passion anymore ever since he got married. It feels almost a similar same way that Keith Thurman pretty much lost a little bit of passion after he got married. Or maybe he just wanted to say, if I continue fighting, because he just fought 2 hard fights, particularly with Porter. Both fights were worthy of a rematch. And if it goes into that aspect, will I wind up in the Timothy Bradley situation? Where I just wind up in a really big fight, my heart tells me to go, and then I wind up 2 or 3 months later slurring. And that's a decent possibility with Spence. So that one, not surprised with Thurman. We kind of all knew, we saw it coming. He is a guy that he does have a lot of varying interests. He has matured as a person. And sometimes when you mature as a person, you lose that passion when it comes to the sport. It's one of the things where you become more worldly. Sometimes you push out other things in your world, but not really surprised by the fight outcome, not really surprised the butt come out of it. And if the WBA suddenly makes Matisse Pacquiao for the actual WBA belt, that's another big name that's going to be thrown to the mix, particularly if well, we have to see what happens with Pacquiao, though. There's some issues there.
Jacob and EJ, your thoughts?
EJ, you want to go ahead since you're...
No, you go ahead, Jacob. I'll do after. Go ahead.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I mean, to speak on the Spence fight first, I mean, with Ocampo, I think we mentioned it last week. I mean, IBF's rankings aren't, if you look at them, they don't have a lot of names that I particularly recognize, and I know that we have the weird thing with the whole champions don't get ranked, and that's all kind of weird to me. But so I didn't expect much from Ocampo. If I look at his record, like Gail said, I think all of his fights except this one was in Mexico. You look at the competition, they don't have, beginning of his career didn't have the best records, even losing records, and a lot of decisions against guys that had a little bit more of a winning record. So I didn't expect too much. And with the kind of performance that Crawford put on, you have to, Spence needed to impress. And kind of what Bo was saying before, I like when guys, when they have a guy you can see that they're definitely better than or at the top of the division. I hate when boxers kind of carry them for rounds and rounds when they could take them out. I'd rather them just, do the easy work and move on. Because in a fight, you never know what could happen. You get hit by a shot, you get hurt, whatever. And I know they want to get rounds and whatnot, but then that goes along with, being active and taking competitive fights. But Spence, I did find it kind of odd that he was, I believe he was straight asked about Crawford, and he kind of diverted to, the winner of Porter and Garcia. And I don't think he even mentioned Thurman. But it does make some sense to agree, because he did mention also that those are fights that can get made. Because we know that, they're with Heyman, PBC, Showtime. You got Crawford, who's with Arum, Top Rank, and ESPN. So, that's going to be a hard fight to make unless somebody gives on one side or another. And then, again, where do you have that fight? They're both champions now. It'd be a big fight in Texas. I think it's a big fight regardless, but you can make a real big fight in Texas or Oklahoma and Omaha. And so, we'll see what happens there. But I kind of agree with Gail in the sense that there's no need to rush this super fight. There's still some work to be done in division. I mean, Crawford just came up. This is his first fight at welterweight, so there's no reason to let's see what else he's got to offer, and then we can get like a big super fight, unification super fight. Maybe each one picks up the belts, and kind of like how when he won and previously when he won the 4 belts, Ndongo had 2, he had 2, and he was able to unify. So we might get a unification sometime within the next year and a half to 2 years. But with Thurman, I've been done with him. I don't really feel sorry for him. He seems very injury prone. He was talking a lot of shit, when he first was trying to get the fights, and then ever since Spence's name got kind of thrown in the mix, and Spence is putting in work and Thurman isn't, and I think the division has passed him by. I don't think he's that big of a draw, to tell you the truth. He's still a big name, but I don't know what kind of numbers he does as far as the draw if his opponent is a weak one. It'd be probably interesting to look at someone like the guy that hit Collazo when he fought Collazo, like how good he did on there when he's headlining a card. But we know Crawford, and Spence, he can, in certain areas he can do well. But there's still time for this to kind of develop, and I think Spence did what he had to do, and it was very impressive, and we'll see what happens.
Your thoughts, EJ?
Yeah, man. That the fight itself is what it is. What it is. You got guys over there who can get your record padded, but it was good for him. He's a Mexican fighter. There's a lot of Latinos in Texas and stuff like that, and he felt confident as well. And he could have caused trouble, but Crawford's in his game, and that fight was what it was, a showcase fight. And straight away after the fight, he's calling out Crawford. And he, obviously we want to see that fight. We see Crawford beat Horn, and there's a lot of good fights coming up, man. Like Gail says, I agree. You want to let it marinate a bit, but you don't want to let it go too long. I mean, if they got the opportunity to fight each other now, then why not? You know what I mean? Then they can have a rematch or whatever. And so that's the way I see that fight. In regards to Keith Thurman, I feel like he should just vacate the belt and let someone else come. The division itself, boxing doesn't wait for no one. And you have a window where you're very successful. And he's been doing that. He's been carrying the welterweight division after Mayweather wasn't in it. And he's done very well. I'm not going to disrespect him. He's been a great champion. But at the same time, people want to see fights right now. And they want to see certain fights. They'd love to see you in there. But we don't know what Keith Thurman's signing up. So he should just do what Fury did. Just vacate the belts and just do what you want to do. And if you feel like you want to come back, you can. But how are you going to be regards in history and regards in your legacy, you know what I'm saying, at this point in your juncture, because you're just on the cusp of these two guys of just coming to your division. Well, they've been in your division for a minute. They've been wanting to fight you. And how much credit would he get if he beats Errol Spence? I'm not too sure at this point. Not much, but if Errol Spence beat Crawford, then he might get some credit. So you kind of felt to yourself like Keith Thurman's calling all the cards and calling it close to his chest. But if he's injured, and I think the WBA definitely should just vacate the belt and let them put that belt in out and vacant, and if these guys fight for each other, put that belt in the equation as well. So at this point, it's interesting. The welterweight division is definitely moving. Is it going to move forward, Keith Thurman, or out? Time is going to tell. But I think Keith Thurman needs to really look at himself and say, well, these are going to be the most hardest fights of my career. And I was in shape before. I was ready for them fights. If they happen then how would you have fought? But now in the activity, and these guys are doing all the heavy lifting, each time these guys fight, it doesn't look good for Keith Thurman. So wherever he decides, I'm sure I wish him the best. But the welterweight division moves on. Boxing doesn't wait for no one. So that's my take.
Yeah, indeed. He's to Bo's original point. Is going by without him. It's talk about him fighting in August. When? We're coming on the end of June, and no announcement yet. Really? And we supposed to kind of take him seriously as a who's going to be on a comeback? You hadn't shown much evidence of it other than that press conference, and you've done nothing since. So yeah, as EJ said, boxing goes on with or without you, whether you in it or not. He doesn't hold the cards anymore because two guys, Spence and now Crawford, they're pulling the weight. You can even throw a Garcia in there, who's fighting Porter later on this year for the vacant belt. So you're absolutely right, EJ. If you're going to sit there and be idle and do nothing, do the sport a favor, do the division a favor, give up the belt. You're just holding it hostage at this point, holding it hostage.
And Spence has had 3 fights since the last time Thurman fought, which was in March 2017. He's had 3 fights, and he's already scheduled. I think he's trying to schedule his next fight, I believe, with maybe Jesse Vargas, I heard, and in between waiting for the Porter Garcia winner. So I mean, he's being active.
Yeah, you can't sit there and claim that you're the man, but yet even after you recover from your injury, you have other fighters within your division basically laying claim that I'm here and I'm here to put in work. Especially Crawford. He beats Horn. He said he won everybody. He won everybody. How does that make Thurman look at this point?
Thurman was the man. Remember, he was a unified champion, WBC, WBA, and he was the man. Everybody was talking about him. And then for whatever reason, I don't know what happened. When Spence's name came up, that's when we start seeing a different Keith.
We saw that Keith even before, because and EJ, I've been in hangouts with you about this. This dude Spence, when he was 14, 15 and 0, he said he would murk Keith Thurman. He would murk him. Yes, and Keith Thurman never had a response. And let's not forget when they had that face-to-face interview with Jim Gray. Remember how Keith Thurman acted? I'm just saying. So
as opposed to when he got in the ring with Garcia and got in his face.
Right.
Yeah, right. And I even mentioned that. Remember, Keith, made the phrase this when he came to him fighting Garcia. What he said, this would be the third daddy boy's ass I didn't beat. And he was talking about Guerrero, Porter, and Garcia. But then when it came to Spence, it was like, okay, where was this dog at? So, indeed. And I think that's what makes it look bad is this was the guy that was the man because he had 2 belts and he was making this run. Then all of a sudden it just derailed so hard and so fast and from his own volition also as well. And I think that's what really makes it look kind of bad is that,
And so moving forward, it's onward and upward for Errol Spence. We hope to get a fight with Crawford down the line, or even the winner of Garcia and Porter. And as far as Keith Thurman, time waits for no man. Time waits for no man, and we'll see what you can do. Are you really coming back, or are you really calling it a day? We will see. I named this particular episode, Body Punching Savagery, not only because of the way the Spence Ocampo fight ended, but also due to the undercard with Ocampo, with Danny Roman, who was defending his junior featherweight belt against #1 contender Moises Fuentes. And I'll go to you on this one, Gail. First off, another case of a fighter not making weight, 1, but 2. If you can get nothing else from Roman's win over Fuentes, it's the body punching. He went to town on this dude's gut. He's probably still sore and probably pissing blood still after the way that Roman ate up his body. That was a body punching display that we hadn't probably seen this year. Your thoughts, Gail?
Flores is very lucky that Roman isn't a harder puncher than he is. I mean, it was plenty hard enough, believe me. Neither of these guys are powerhouses, but Roman showed that exactly what you need to do with a guy who doesn't make weight, who then, tries frantically to get down on the scale, and then is drained. No mercy. Go to the body. They're going to feel it. They're ripe for the picking. And that's a master class in exactly how to approach it. And, Flores, his nickname is Chucky, like the horror character, right, from the movies. Well, that was a horror show for Flores. That's for damn sure. It was a mess. And shame on him. He has had some good fights. He's been very entertaining. I've seen him plenty of times in Southern California. I think Jacob has too. And for him to put up a show like that, stink up the joint, yeah, very disappointing. Take nothing away from Roman. Good fight for him. And he's a great little story. He's one of these guys here in Southern California who's grounded out at some of the regional shows, the local stuff. He's kept really busy. He's worked super hard. And everything he has earned it. And I really like to see that. So good for him, and hope he gets right back in there soon.
I'm going to open up the discussion for anyone else who saw the fight. I don't know how good Roman is vis-a-vis the division at 122 pounds. In terms of Vargas, Awasa, who holds the IBF belt, Dogbe, who just won the title. But the thing I give Danny Roman credit for, he's a grinder. He's a grinder. He's hardworking in earnest, and you have to respect someone like that. So talk about the fight, his win over Fuentes, as well as his standing at 122 pounds. And if anybody else who saw the fight, please jump in.
Yeah, listen, the 122-pound division is starting to, when you look at the possibilities of some of the matchups, starting to have some really good movement. But to Gil's point, Flores is lucky that Roman wasn't a body puncher like Errol Spence, or that fight would have really been over quickly. Give him credit. He's tough and durable. There were some lapses in Danny Roman. Like, I'm still seeing him have some lapses where he's getting hit by the same punch. And I'm like, man, you getting hit by the same punch. And there was a time when I felt Roman was lucky that Flores probably wasn't even a harder puncher, because he was getting hit with some flush right hands. So, but I still rated a good performance, because and then you got to keep in mind too, he was in there with a guy that did not make weight. So the ability to hurt him like he probably wanted to hurt him may not have been there. And so maybe the fight went longer. There was some, I didn't like what I was seeing in Flores. His feet freaking horrible. Like, his feet was horrible. His feet was so bad that when he threw a punch and missed, I mean, he was just, it was, his balance was just horrible. His footwork was horrible. But I'll give Flores credit that he stayed the course of the path. He didn't get discouraged, because some of the punches he was hitting this guy with would put most people out, and it didn't. So he stayed the course. I saw a little bit of a stamina issue with him, like in toward the middle, toward the 7th, 8th round, a little bit of a stamina issue. But he got it back together. So I like some of the possible matchup with him. I don't know if he'll be able to fight Dogbe, because I think Magdaleno is going to invoke a rematch. But you got other good fights there, like you said. You got Awasha, you got Navarrete, you got Diego De La Hoya, Vargas, who's another champion there. So it's some good fights. How he stacks up against them, only time will tell. But I like it, because no one can stay claim to this division as being the man, because when you look at all these guys, even with Dogbe, like Flores and Dogbe would be a good fight, because Dogbe is susceptible to body punches. When Magdaleno hit him with a body punch, he just didn't realize he hurt him a couple of times. So I love this division. Can Danny Roman come up above it? Who knows? But like Gail said, he's a grinder, and those are the kind of guys that can make for exciting fights.
And speaking of Dogbe, he will be returning in the ring August 25th, to be exact. Don't know his exact opponent. Maybe it's a rematch with Magdaleno, but he will be making the first defense of his WBO title late August in the States. So there you go. I'll go to EJ, Jacob, Daniel. If you saw the Roman fight with Fuentes, your thoughts?
I'm glad that Fuentes got beat. He had that kind of that fight with Rigondeaux, where he he did a little acting job or whatever. But Gil and Bo said a lot already. Roman is he fought many fights locally in the Ontario area, and he's a grinder, and he's putting in that work. I don't know that he beats a fighter like Vargas or Dagbo, but I'd like to see the fights. To see if we can unify the division and give it clarity. I think they would be entertaining fights. I mean, I will give Roman this. I mean, he's going to go in there to fight, and he doesn't have the greatest power in the world, so he's got to kind of grind it out and just land more punches and not get hit. But Dagbo is a tough guy. Vargas, that's an interesting fight in the sense that Vargas has had some tough outings in his last few defenses. So it'd be interesting to see how he approaches that fight. But if they can make those fights, I mean, I'd love to see them.
EJ, Daniel, your thoughts?
Yeah. Like the fight was what it was. The weight you factor into it was entertaining, but the right guy won the fight, and to be fair, the right guy won the fight. It was good body shots in for a while, but obviously the fight before I was more upset with that and the way that finished. Obviously being pushed through the ropes and stuff like that. That's the fight I really like, but that fight there was like, it was okay. You know what I mean? And the champion won, and like we just move on. And like it's a shame about the weights, but I don't think he probably thought he could win the fight anyway. I wonder if he got fined, and if he did, then understandably, but but it happens in boxing. But the show must go on, and that's why if they cancel it, then the champion would have been out of pocket. So it's just as well that fight carried on, but it's not very good. You train that way, you had enough ample time to make the weight, and you didn't make the weight. It's very bad. So the right guy won the fight, and we move on.
Your thoughts, Daniel? And I once again mentioning Dogbe. He's already calling for a unification bout with Roman. And from what I'm hearing, just late word, it looks like that fight, it could be some plans taking place for a unification between Dogbe and Roman. Your thoughts on this, Daniel?
The weight issue, yeah, it's disappointing. We're seeing it. It's becoming a pretty hot trend this year. But Roman did what he was supposed to, and he did it the way he's supposed to do it. He grinded it out. He did the body work. He showed that I'm not going to try to knock you out. I'm just going to grind you into submission. And he did pretty well on that front. And of course, unification fights. Yeah, 122 is 30 per open right now because we still don't know what Rigo's doing. But obviously, like, Dog Race a pretty interesting fight. The fight that probably interesting to me probably is going to be him and Ray Vargas. Because Vargas, they get tested pretty well in his last fight. So we have to see how this fight fares out. A good body puncher against somebody that's pretty tall for the division in Vargas. So it was a fight that I expected the outcome to be, especially after the weight situation. And hopefully, like I said, we get something with Roman in the future. Maybe some unifications, just no inactivity.
Going to move on to some news here. I'm going to start with you, EJ. The World Boxing Super Series Cruiserweight Tournament has been one of the best things for the sport throughout 2017 and into 2018. Been much scuttle, much talk back and forth about the final between Alexander Usyk and Gassiev, in terms, particularly when it comes to location. It was announced yesterday that the final has been set. Usyk, who was very hesitant about fighting in Russia for political reasons, let's just put it out there. But we found out yesterday that the fight will be happening July 21st in Moscow. Talk about that, and are you surprised that the fight is indeed going to happen in Russia, given the fact that Team Usyk the fighter in their camp really did not want that fight there.
Yeah, that's to do with drawing power. I know Usyk does so well in his home country, but you know, like he's probably had to give up something or got something for it, money. You know, got some money for it or bonus just to give up that one. But it doesn't matter. Like Usyk's, like, you know, I'm sure he's confident about it. I'm sure he feels like he's gonna win the fight. That's like where the location is still gonna be the same ring. You know, hopefully, like he might try to stop the fight, but if it goes to the cards, yeah, that's probably why it might be pretty problematic. But what's it? Ukraine, they're still Russian, in it. That's their cousins, isn't it? It shouldn't be that much of a problem.
But politically, they are enemies. They are enemies, no
Yeah,
doubt about it.
but on the boxing thing, you know, you have judges from around the world. This is a unification bout, so they've obviously when you're doing your negotiations, you make sure the judges have come from other countries other than Russia. Now they maybe influence them when you take them to dinner and stuff like that, but in the day, a fight is a fight. You know, you can see who's winning and who's not, and you'll be scrutinized too much in the boxing world series if the right outcome doesn't happen. So far, the World Boxing Series has been 100. The judges have been 100. The reputation of the World Boxing Series is impeccable. So I don't expect anything. I think it's good for the World Boxing Series that you can go around the world and pick venues and be fine. It's probably good for Russia and the economy as well. Because when the World Boxing Series is in Wembley, I'm sure like the World Boxing Series is sold a lot of tickets. It was good to have it in Wembley. It weren't too far from me, so I'm saying regardless, the fight is going to be what the fight is. The judges, they should do the right job. And Usyk seems like he's comfortable. I know, obviously, if you're going to factor that sort of thing, but as a fighter, I don't think fighters feel that they feel like their team has done the best thing for them. The Silent brothers, they're being watched. Everyone's being scrutinized at this point. You don't want to make no slip ups, and I feel that they'll give the right person who wins the fight the right deal. So good on the World Boxing Series to getting this fight done, and hopefully, I'm looking forward to seeing the fight in Moscow and Russia.
I'm going to open the discussion up for everybody else who want to chime in. Thoughts on the final, not just date, but where it's happening.
You know, these guys can draw a crowd there and make some money. And what the hell's wrong with that? I just hope we get to see it here in the United States. That's always been the problem with these super series fights, is all of us are scrambling to, you know, try to find a feed, and hopefully they'll take care of us fans in North America. But I like it. It'll be exciting. You know, there's a interesting political dynamic that, you know, cultural dynamic that'll find its way into the ring. And it's going to be a heck of a barn burner fight. I don't think we'll be disappointed.
Daniel, Bo, Jacob, your thoughts?
You know, I've often said there are certain fights that sell. Rivalry fights are always one of the fights that sell, and to a certain degree, this is a rivalry fight. As far as where it's located, me personally, it would be hard for me to try to put myself in Usyk's shoes as to his concern, not just for maybe losing the fight with the judges, but probably for his safety as well. So he probably has that going on in his head. Maybe he's a little bit worried about his safety, but whatever it is, he's going to have to put that out of his head come, you know, time to fight and get in there and actually perform his job and do it, because Gassiev has shown us he has added some wrinkles to his game. He has made some adjustments. He can go 12 rounds. Okay. So Usyk's going to have to bring his A game also as well. But to Gail point and to everybody that said it, listen, it's probably the most best thing that's ever happened to boxing, but also underrated aspect of not getting a lot of fanfare attention, because this is a fight where we're going to have undisputed. So we're going to have another undisputed champion in you know, doing our time in the cruiserweight division. And supposedly Richard Schaefer is going to try to have it shown on the U.S. channel and network. But when you look at this fight even just on paper, or just look at these guys' body of work, this is a very, very good fight. Technically, soundly, professionally, this is a very good fight. So I'm excited for
it. Daniel, Jacob, your thoughts?
Not surprised by the outcome to it. obviously the Russians are always going to have to throw to try to get fights in their country. And we know that the World Boxing Super Series, one of the draws was the winner could get the sum total of $50 million. And Usyk probably doesn't want to give that away into it. Granted, yeah, we know the political situation, the military situation as well between Ukraine and Russia. What it may bother me is from the fan standpoint, yeah, the World Boxing Super Series is golden. They've done a good job as far as putting good fights together. What worries me about this is that it hurts them from a business sense. Because what if you're trying to now sell like the final of this tournament is going to be in this, we're going to put it in this city or in this country. Seeing this, granted, yeah, the fight really didn't belong in Saudi Arabia. But how are you going to sell that to other cities when other cities are going to say, really? The other fight could just maneuver himself out and we're not going to be seeing this fight. We're negotiating with you when you don't have the strength to control the actors within it. That's what may worry me about themselves and the venues. As far as the fight itself, I'm glad it's happening. It's not that far away. And it's going to be a unification fight. You're either going to have a Ukrainian beating the Russian in Moscow for 2 belts, or are you going to have Gassiev become a national hero? So the fight itself is going to be good. Like, that's the only thing that worries me about the Boxing Superstars as they're trying to get TV partners for the second year, because particularly in the 140-pound division, they have Americans. At least 2 right now that I can think of top of my head in Prograis and Maurice Hooker. So hopefully it develops into it, but as far as the fight itself, let's start the countdown.
Yeah, it's almost a month away to the day. Your thoughts, Jacob?
I mean, I'm just selfish. I just want to see the conclusion of this tournament, and it's against the 2 guys that I think a lot of people thought were going to be there, and it's a unification fight. They both did spectacular in their showings leading up to this fight. So I just hope there's no other snags. It's unfortunate that that there is not issues, but the way that the audience and I guess the money making aspect of it. I wish there was more access to the fans. Even if I had to pay for it, even like kind of like the ESPN Plus app, I'll throw them a few bucks. I don't care, because I've actually really enjoyed these fights, and I want to be able to see them and not have to search for a diamond in the rough, kind of, so to speak. But the next season of it, looks to be, they're getting a lot of great people. I mean, we can potentially get a Nue Tete fight. I mean, that's another, great
The
matchup.
bantamweight division is fire. The bantamweight portion is fire.
Yeah, and so again, if the way that the world is going with sports in particular, with the streaming thing, like, I don't know, maybe that should be in their idea if they can't get some type of coverage, like with partner television. I mean, ESPN's making all kinds of deals. They made one with what, Golden Boy, Top Rank, UFC. I mean, I don't see, there's no reason why this can't be on TV. It's a significant fight against 2 exciting fighters. You got these other divisions like we were just talking about that are going to be part of this next series, and it should be great.
Let's move on to some fights that's happening the next couple of days. Going to start with the ladies here. Doubleheader Showtime that's going down Friday night. I forgot the city in Michigan, but it's happening in Michigan. Claressa Shields unification bout with Hanna Gabriels on the undercard. Christina Hammer fighting Tori Nelson. Start with you, Gail, first, and then you, EJ. Shields, Gabriels, first off, very good fight. For me, I think this is the toughest fight Claressa Shields' career to this point. Is Shields the favorite? Yeah, but Hanna Gabriels is no joke. High profile bouts on for women's boxing. I know we had Breakers fight a couple months ago, well, a month or so ago on HBO. But for me, this fight is probably even better. This card is better. Best doubleheader in women's boxing that we have seen in a long time, maybe ever, from a stakes perspective.
I do think you could say ever, especially if these ladies put on a good performance like we all expect they will. It's interesting the way it's set up. You've got two of the women's middleweight belts available in the Shields fight. You've got the vacant IBF title and the vacant WBA middleweight titles. Now, Shields is coming down from super middleweight for this fight. Gabriels is coming up from junior middleweight for this fight to meet at middleweight. So they'll tangle for those two belts. The other two belts are at play in the co-main event with Christina Hammer. So you're going to see all four belts in play same night, and the winner of the Shields and Gabriel fight will likely face the winner of the Hammer-Nelson fight. Tori Nelson is her opponent, and no pushover either. The fight's taking place at the Masonic Temple in Detroit, right in Detroit. So a hometown fight for Shields. But this sets up a major showdown and a unification fight for the women. I love it. I love seeing these ladies put all the belts on the line, going for it, you know, with rare exception. They're showing up the guys here. You know, they aren't doing this. They aren't putting all those belts on the table and saying, there you go, let's go for it. You know, may the best woman win. And no pushovers on this card. Shields, if Shields wins, she'll earn it. If Hammer wins, she'll earn it. Should be interesting to see what kind of call-outs are getting done at the end of the evening on Showtime. And credit to Showtime for giving the ladies a platform on a major American premium cable network in prime time. And, you know, they have put their money where their mouth is. And, you know, HBO, I'm sad to say, is running almost as far behind with the ladies as they are with the guys right now. They got a lot of work to do. It should be a very fun fight. Both fights should be very fun to watch. You know, everybody involves a hard puncher. It's a perfect card for people who don't think they like women's boxing. I think they're going to change their minds.
Exhibit 4080, why Showtime is really, really winning when it comes to the sport. EJ, Shields is the known name here, but you've been on Hanna Gabriels for years now, talking about her when no one else was. So for those who are uninformed about Hanna Gabriels, give some insights in terms of the type of fighter she is.
Yeah, Hanna Gabriels was an athletic star, track star. She got an injury, and right? She was putting a lot of weight, so she started to go boxing just to lose the weight, and she became very good at it. And obviously she lost weight, and this is in Costa Rica. And then obviously she came very good at it. And her boyfriend at the time was the one, now is her husband, is Brian Vasquez. As we know, he challenged against Uchiyama, and had a fight with what's the guy's name again? Javier Fortuna. And obviously helped, even though he's a bit shorter than that, whatever, it doesn't matter. Love's blind to that. They got together and he opened her in the training, and they start building a dynasty. The power couple in Costa Rica. He, as a pro, he was up and coming. This is before he went against Uchiyama, and she was up and coming as well. And obviously, if you've seen her, she's absolutely stunning. One of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. Her and
you're right about that. She is fine. Gosh.
Her nickname is the Amazon, and it's, you know what I'm saying? Like when you see her, you're just like, wow, why is she even fighting? And
So anyway, yes, they started doing in Costa Rica, and they do stadiums. They sell out stadiums as well. How I first came about was Al Bernstein on the boxing channel. There was previewing women's fighting, and I was looking at this girl. I was like, oh, who's this woman? She's really pretty. Can she fight? She's very good. She's got great foot movement, fast hands. She uses her athleticism when she fights as well. So that's the sort of style you're going to be. She's going to adapt just to basically wear you out until you get tired, and then she got a lot of knockouts, but against women not at a high level. The first woman she stepped against is 18-year-old Ostara Castillo. Now this is when we see some controversy. This is going to end. So the first fight they had was for the WBO, but she lost that fight. She got stopped in the second round. It was a great punch by Ostara Castillo. Ostara Castillo then went on to fight what's her name again? Cecilia Braccus. She lost that fight. Now I think it's 5 years later. So we're talking about I think it was this year. They fought this year. Yeah, I think it was
2017. They fought December, November 2017.
The ending of last year. Yeah, the ending of last year. And in that fight, controversy to the max. Basically, in this fight, Hanna Gabriels was doing all right. I gave her the first round. Second round, she was doing all right. All of a sudden, in a flurry, she got caught. She got knocked down to her knee. Right. Same thing happened obviously in the first fight, but she got up. Now they were getting into another exchange, and then all of a sudden, her husband walks into the ring and just grabs her and brings her to the stool. The referee obviously walks Oxide Skill to the stool. I'm doing some commentary, so it's on my channel, and I'm looking at the time. The time started exactly when the fight started. So, but all of a sudden, they're trying to say that there was something wrong with the clock. Hell no, there was nothing wrong with the clock. It was that Oxide Castillo was putting a beating. Remember again, she won. She was 18 when she challenged her, so she was 23 at the time. So they didn't want that happening to her because there was obviously big fights in the horizon. But anyway, Hanna Gabriels got off her seat. She boxed beautifully and she outputted Oxide. So there's 1-1. That's the controversy going into this fight here, in my opinion. Now she's going up a weight. And remember, I told you she was doing training to lose the weight. I don't know how much is this going to affect her. I think this fight really favors Claressa Shields, who fights like Ostara Castillo, has a better right hand, has a really good feel. But again, she's a flat-footed like Ostara Castillo. But eventually, timing does catch you in. Right now, Claressa Shields is very sharp. I don't really like Hanna Gabriels' charge. I'll be lucky if it gets out the second round. That's crazy for everyone to hear this, but I won't be surprised if it even gets out the second round, because the way Claressa Shields throws them combinations, and Hanna Gabriels, to be fair, because she's been very athletic, she's been able to avoid punches. But when she has got hit cleanly, as you see the result, she goes down. This fight should be a spectacular fight, and Hanna Gabriels is tough. She might, if she get floored, she'll get up and she'll try to grate out. She's been through that now. So she's been floored before. She'll get up and she'll try and outplay her. Can she do it? I'm not too sure. Claressa Shields has the height advantage plus the reach advantage. This is going to be an epic fight. This is like a mini women's tournament in Showtime. This is going to be great. So obviously, and you get to see the other ladies fighting, Christina Hanna versus Tori Nelson. So they're gonna unify the belts as well. But this is to me was a dream match, because Hanna Gabriels, I've been watching her for years. I always wanted her to fight Cecilia Braccus, and they actually had a conversation with each other. And I was wanting Cecilia Braccus to fight her. In my opinion, when the tournament is actually finished, with these girls, whoever, in my opinion, they will be pound for pound number one, because the resume would dictate that be better. Now, people might say I'm crazy, but let's go down to Cecilia Braccus' record and ask who she fought at the time when she fought them. Now you got Claressa Shields. She's already been a 2-weight, and she's moved. Now she's moving down the weight. You know what I'm saying? So if she beats Hanna Gabriels, who's been a champion, a two-time champion herself, that's pretty good already. Then if she fights the winner of Tori Nelson and Christina Hanna beats her, in my opinion, if whoever gets all 4 belts is going to be pound for pound number one, will top Cecilia Braccus, because in my opinion, Cecilia Braccus when it gets Hanna Gabriels, and Hanna Gabriels easily output her. But when you Callis, what's her name again? Callie Reese when it gets Hanna Gabriels easily outputted her. But when you see Callie Reese, even to be fair, she was at 154. She went down to welterweight 147. But you saw what she did to Cecilia Braccus. She struggled, and now they're having a rematch. So, in my opinion, whoever wins this fight will be the new women's pound for pound, wins this tournament, and that's what it is basically. Will be the new women's pound for pound champion, in my opinion. And I feel that in this time, I think that will be T-Rex, Claressa Shields, in my opinion.
So while you like, you're a fan of
Big fan of Hannah Gabriels.
Gabriels, but you just think she's just too small for the likes of a Claressa Shields at this point.
It's timing, because if you look at Claressa Shields, she's big for weight, and they've got her coming down naturally to the weight. They say, you know, you can probably make this weight. I don't think the weight's gonna. But the thing about her is the only thing, she's flat foot, but it's the combinations. She's got really fast hands, and if you ever watched Ostella Castillo, her hands wasn't fast, but she's timing. Claressa Shields got better timing, and I feel she hits harder. So it doesn't look good for her. But Hannah Gabriels can get through all that and continue. Remember, she has a lot of experience. She can get through that and get it off. But just because of the controversy as well, coming into the fight, I'm like, you know what I'm saying? It's not very good. But like I said to you, that's not going to be better. Nothing as well. She's had all her fights in Costa Rica. This is the first fight that she's coming out of her country and coming to America, and she's trying to make a star of herself. Al Bernstein was there when she fought what's her name, Dakota Stone. Dakota Stone at the time beat Christine Martin, and Dakota Stone went to obviously Costa Rica, and even though Hannah Gabriels was winning, the fight was stopped controversially. So there's a lot of stuff that happens in Costa Rica that won't happen in the States. It's very important who the referee is. Yeah, but remember again, the world of eyes is all on the women's boxing, so you don't want to see these women get hurt. So you know, if she gets hurt, the fight will probably be stopped promptly. And understand me well, she's very pretty. I don't want to see her hurt either. But I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? So it should be a great fight, a great women's night. Friday, Showtime. Everyone to find it. It's going to be a great night of fighting.
I'm going to open up the discussion here for everybody else in the chat. Shields, Gabriels, Christina Hammer, Tori Nelson, Bo, Daniel, Jacob, your thoughts?
Man, look, because I got some serious rebuttals for what my man EJ was saying over there, okay? Number one, yes, I give Hannah Gabriel, she's very beautiful, but
here we go.
She is number two next to the most beautiful woman in combat sports, which is Cecilia Bragas, okay? Also, I do agree with this. I've always advocated and been one of the guys to advocate saying how if you look at women's boxing, they should be considered pound for pound. A lot of people may disagree with me, don't like it, but I've always said that. Now, the only reason why I couldn't put, because for me, if you're number one, the only way that get the clips is if you lose. Cecilia Bragas is, I think, 34, 35, so she's probably losing the step. That's why she, you know, and she did have some serious issues. She looked like she got knocked down, but she definitely got hurt a couple of times, and her reflexes looked a little slower in that fight. So you can definitely see Bragas is losing the step. But when I look at Hanna, the problem with Hanna Gabriel, she's extremely athletic, and how you beat athletic fighters is you throw combination punching. We saw Mikey Garcia do that with Adrian Broner. You beat athletic guys by just throwing combination punching, because they can avoid the first 1 and 2, but then you'll catch it with 3 and 4. Actually, that's what happened with Roy Jones, especially when your reflexes and stuff start slowing down. Then now you're able to catch him, because you're able to catch him by punching in volume, which Claressa Shields does very, very well. And then you mentioned timing. It's not so much about Claressa Shields' timing, it's about her spacing as well. When you think she can't hit you from a certain distance, she can, because she can close that gap. She feels that space. There's no empty space for her. When she punches at you, she feels that space, then she gets back. Then she feels the space again, and she gets back. When her punches are coming, they're so crisp and so accurate that even if they don't hurt you, they're catching you in such a way that your ability to respond is not there either. And last but not least, the biggest issue with Hanna Gabriel, and this is what you mentioned, it is I do believe Claressa Shields, Claressa Shields is a better puncher, but also from a skill set level, just skill set. And then the way she was brought down to 160 was just the perfect way. They didn't rush her down. They gently brought her down to 160, which was perfect. So I think it's going to be a good fight. I'm really interested in it, because this will be the most athletic person that Shields has faced. But Shields would be probably, from a skill set standpoint, the most skillful fighter Hanna Gabriel has faced. And then to EJ's point, because I saw both fights with Hanna Gabriel, I'm wondering from a mental aspect where her mind is. And if she gets in trouble with Claressa Shields, who will not let up, and who your husband will not be allowed to jump in that ring, from a mental standpoint, what will happen to her? That's going to be the biggest key, because one thing we know is Claressa Shields mentally is just a dog. Her mental aspect of her mind is better than, anytime you get somebody that tweets, that says to the super middleweight division and the middleweight division, next time I set up a fight for you and you cancel it, I'm gonna come to your damn gym. I'm gonna put you on blast at
Man,
your
look,
damn
forget
gym.
that. Forget that. Remember when Kovalev made those comments about what a woman's place supposed to
Yeah.
be and how she got in his face, and she told him, "Look, I done knocked out dudes bigger than you, so watch it."
Yeah, so she has that in her. Then the Hammer versus Nelson fight is very intriguing to me because Nelson is rough. Nelson is rugged. And she just fought Claressa Shields, and she gave she was rough and rugged with Claressa Shields.
I mean, she was right there. Took her to
Yeah,
distance.
She was right there. So she's rough, she's rugged. So this will be a good thing for Christina Hammer to maybe even knock her out or give her the business to build up to their fight, because Claressa Shields do feel some kind of way that she's supposed to fought Christina Hammer once before. Didn't happen. Then Hammer was supposed to be on her undercard. Didn't happen. So she feels some kind of way about that, about this whole Hammer situation. But then I also like the mind games that Hammer is playing. She's playing it, okay, I'm gonna wait you out, wait you out, and hopefully try to get you over anxious to catch and fight me. So I mean, listen, I'm loving it, and like EJ said, I don't have a problem with somebody if putting Shields number one, especially after her doing this. Just for me, I can't take nobody off number one unless they lose. But with the way you look at the way Claressa Shields is doing, the way Hanna Gabriels is doing, because let's keep in mind, she did not have to take this fight. She came up in weight. She came down in weight. When you see what these women are doing, you see the woman that just fought Cecilia Bragas come down in weight. When you see what these women are willing to do, Tori Nelson just came off of a tough fight with Shields. Now she's going to fight Hammer. You wish the men would do this, but let's keep in mind the women do it because of the money. They have to fight like this because of the money. They don't get paid the same that the men do, so they have to do it. But still, you wish the men would be willing to do this, and that's what makes this exciting to me. And it's not your, like, these women fighting is not no rock'em sock'em robot slap box in the street. These are technically sound women that are getting in that ring and putting on technical fights, athleticism, and exciting. So I love it.
Go to you, Jacob and Daniel. Your thoughts on these two fights, this doubleheader?
I mean, I'm excited about it. I'm glad that Showtime's continuing their commitment to the women's boxing by putting their fights, on their channel, and especially a significant pair of fights here with the winners hopefully facing each other in a unification. I mean, I think Shields is going to win the fight. I think EG said it wasn't going to last too long. I think it'll last a lot longer than he's saying, but she'll eventually win and probably stop Gabriels. But I'm going to co-sign with Bo, though. Brockus is number one when it comes to the looks department. I mean, Gabriels is no pushover, but Brockus is a beautiful woman. In the Hammer fight, Nelson was very game against Shields, and she got hit a lot, but she was game, and so I think that'll be a tough fight. But I think Hammer will win that fight, and then I'm sure we'll get a face off after that, after Shields wins, and Hammer and Shields have faced off before, and they hopefully get a big fight. Whether it's here in the States or overseas. I think they're both ready to do it. I think they both have a lot to prove, not just to women's boxing, but to the boxing world in general. So, I mean, nothing but good things here for me.
First, I want to make sure that, unfortunately, this is going to be a special presentation for Showtime. Not actually still Showtime Championship Boxing, so it's not going to have the A team. It's not going to have Morrow, Al, or Paulie commentating. It's going to be the Showbox team, Farhood and Barry Tompkins, which is still a pretty good team. The next step, like I said, if we get Shields versus Hammer, it should be that Showtime Championship Boxing. That's the next step. But as far as each individual fight goes, Gabriels is not a slouch, but I agree with when it comes to Shields. Shields has something in her that just drives her to not only win, but to beat you badly while doing it. And And hopefully, like she doesn't, she's not looking past Gabriels and already looking towards Hammer, because she's still a young kid, and unfortunately, we know young kids, if they look too far ahead, something might catch them and something might wind up slipping. With Hammer, I pretty much expect her to win. I just expect her to win because she also knows what's on the line. She knows that it's a identification, it's a fight in the U.S., it's a fight that instead of the Masonic and the Masonic Temple, which is what this fight's going to be in, if they're going to do it in Detroit, they'll do it at Little Caesars Arena. So that's going to be an interesting take into it, and hopefully, now as far as the pound for pound debate, I agree with Bo in the fact that Brackets hasn't really taken a loss yet, at least a brutal loss. So she's still there technically number one, but it's no longer the case where like she's the clear number one and the rest of the field is that far behind her. The field is catching up to her with Shields, Hammer, Katie Taylor, and this whole slew of other female fighters are going to come in and challenge her, particularly if something happens in the near future and then Cuban women start challenging, because I've seen a good amount of female Cuban fighters that are still training in the gym. They're still trying to fight to get on the national team, but they really want to get to the fight, and those kids have skills. So hopefully it's a good step forward in women's boxing. I like Shields to win. She just has the tenacity in her. I like Hammer to win based on experience, and that's going to be a fun fight to go to if it stays in Detroit.
I just think Hammer is too much hand and foot speed and skill for Tori Nelson, who's rugged, who's shown the Claressa Shields fight. She's tough, but I just think Christina Hammer is just a level above from that skill perspective. Shields, I agree with EJ and Bo. Size is going to matter in this fight. They really are doing a terrific job with bringing down Claressa Shields slowly but surely, the right way to 160, so she will not be weak. And also, as EJ noted, whenever Gabriels has been hit on the chin, it's been iffy. She's been down. She gets back up and fight, but still, she's been down, and she's moving up a division to fight a woman who's moving down a division, who's getting better and better, Shields, with each and every fight. So I'm going with Shields with that as well. Stoppage. I don't know if it's going to be mid or late, but I'm predicting her by stoppage, and hopefully we will see a Shields Christina Hammer fight sometime this fall. I'm just going to open this last fight up for anybody who wants to talk about it. Miguel Berchelt is fighting Jonathan Victor Barros in Mexico, I believe. Let me check right quick. Yes, in Merida, Mexico, ESPN Plus. Berchelt defending his junior lightweight title. For those who want to talk about that fight, please do.
For a return fight, not a bad fight. Victor is a former world champion. Well, he's a former champion. I think he won the WBA regular title at featherweight. He's a career featherweight. The problem is with Barrios is every time he stepped up. He kind of reminds me of Obakar, one of the guys that could beat the B and C level guys, but every time he stepped up and fought that A level guy, he lost. He lost to Gamboa. He lost to Caballero. He also lost to Mikey Garcia. He also lost to Salgado. So every time he has stepped up, he's lost to, and it just goes to show how tough of a division it is that he's been fighting, because he's always lost to the top guys. That's why I compare it to Obakar. Obakar he was a guy who was good, but at his time, you had Oscar and Felix Trinidad and them guys there that was preventing him from moving up to that next level. So it's a good fight. As far as a comeback fight, I'm not disappointed with it. Like I say, he's the former world champion. He is a guy that will, he's been there, so he has some experience, good journeyman. and he'll test him, and maybe test him a little bit and give him something to think about. But I expect Berchelt to come out the victor because, like I said, every time Barrios has stepped up, has tried to step up that level past B level guys to the A level guys, he's always come up short. So, and also Berchelt is a bigger puncher than Mikey Garcia, in my opinion, also as well.
Anybody else who want to talk about this fight, please do.
Yeah, similar things to say in the sense that it's a stay busy fight, I think, for Berchelt. He's defending his belt. I think he's looking to get obviously a bigger fight. But he's doing the smart thing, I think, by staying busy. He's coming off of a February knockout that he had, and also in Mexico. So, I think Berchelt, he showed me that he can brawl when he needs to. He can box. He's got good power. He's got a good ring sense and IQ. With Barros, kind of with Bo said, every time he steps up competition, he doesn't he's not able to complete the goal. But nice Obakar pool though there. I like that comparison. But hopefully I think he'll stop him. I think it'll be probably maybe mid to late rounds, but he'll get in his work, and hopefully he can get a big fight, and hopefully it'll be somewhere in the States, so he can get some more exposure.
One more fight. I should have put this in the docket, but I forgot to put it in the docket. I'm going to you specifically, EJ, and if anybody wants to follow up, please do. Intriguing matchup at 140 pounds over in Glasgow, Scotland. Josh Taylor, one of the best prospects, if you will, over in the UK boxing scene. He's fighting Victor Postol, title eliminator. Taylor, who I believe beat O'Hara Davis, stopped him, coming back against a Postol who not too long ago fought a unification bout with one Terrence Crawford. Talk about the bout real quick, EJ. Your thoughts about it? Is this move up too soon, too fast, too soon, too fast for Josh Taylor, or is it just at the right time, EJ?
I think it's at the right time, Michael, because I think, if you look at Postol, he's been out the ring for quite a long, and he had a couple of good fights and stuff like that. To be fair, Josh Taylor's probably wanting this fight for his base and stuff like that, but there's nothing special. They might look at Postol, he's tall, and Josh Taylor's a very good body puncher, so that's probably what they might think. They might be surprised, that how tough Postol is. He's pretty tough, because he went in there with Matisse, and Matisse, everyone knows Matisse can hit hard if you let him do, but he controlled him, and obviously we saw what he did to Matisse. So this is a very good fight. And also, if you look at the rankings, Postol's even ranked in front of him. Postol's ranked number 6. Postol's ranked number 3. Josh Taylor's number 6. So he moves closer to his goal. And I believe the winner at this fight will enter in the 140 tournament. So that's another reason why he wants to get in there, because I feel like Josh Taylor will be in there against Hooker and them other champions in the 140 tournament. So I think they're fighting for that as well. And when I looked on the schedule, I was like, wow, they're really bringing him on. And I think it's the right timing for him. But I wouldn't be surprised if Postol goes over there and gives him a whoop ass. I wouldn't be surprised because if you look at Postol, he's got long arms like O'Hara Davis. And O'Hara Davis, to be fair, was giving him trouble. But Postol's better than O'Hara Davis. If he can control range and doesn't let Josh Taylor in, Josh Taylor might be surprised, I know Josh Taylor's going to do what if he can't get in there as Matisse. But the thing is, he's taller though. Josh Taylor, Postol, I think he's 5'11". Taylor's 5'10". So there's not much into the height as well, but it's how Josh Taylor fights. He fights inside, and that way you need to be close to the body to do your work. And Victor Postol, he's got the traditional upright, jab, right hand, left hook behind it, ties you up. So it's going to be interesting, but it's the timing, the inactivity as well with Postol coming into it. He's inactivity. But the thing is, his style has never been about reflexes. He just works basically behind the jab and sets up his shots. So this is going to be an intriguing fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Victor Postol upset him, but I'm obviously going to go with Josh Kelly I think Josh Kelly will win. His body shots, I wouldn't be surprised if he puts him down and stops him. So I'll go with Josh Kelly. But this is a very good fight. And like I said, the winner goes into the World Series Boxing Series. That's not 100%, I feel, but I think you more or less you got to say that because he'll probably go into the tournament. No one else will be in the tournament. So this is a great fight. It's going to be on Channel 5 on Saturday. So there's a lot of fights this weekend. Boy, you guys look at the schedule and try and find them links and see if you can watch the fights. Obviously, with the UK fights, they come on a bit early before all the big fights in the States. So, well, anyway, the main fights in the States is the women's fight. And there's also fighting on ESPN as well. But yeah, man, it's gonna be a great night over in Scotland.
For anybody else, quickly, have any words with this fight between Postal and Taylor?
Man, all them Joshes are impressive to me. Josh Taylor, Josh Warrington. You got don't forget Kelly. You know what I'm saying. Linus Adofia. Shout out to my man out there. So all these Joshes are impressive. The thing is, I disagree with EJ just a little bit as far as when it comes to Hard Davies. I don't think Hard Davies giving him that much trouble. I just really thought that Taylor just outdogged him. And it surprised Davies. Davies thought he could punk him, and Taylor just kind of outdogged him. There were some moments, though, that you could see Davies was giving him some trouble. But as far as the mental aspect of Victor Postal is what really concerns me in this fight, because of the fact that Postal is kind of upright. He still can be sort of robotic. In the fight that he had after Terrence Crawford, he did not look good at all, period. You know, that guy was really giving it to him. So it's going to be interesting to see. And Josh Taylor has indicated that if he wins this fight, he is willing to enter the 140-pound tournament. And Maurice Hooker has already entered the tournament, the 140-pound tournament. So now you have three belts that could possibly be 3 out of the 4 major belts could possibly be in this tournament, which is good. But I like this fight. I really do. I think Taylor, just his amateur pedigree and the way he fights. Sometimes he can box you from the outside, and like EJ said, he can be inside. And inside fighting can give Victor Postal some problem because, like I said, he needs range, he needs distance. And Taylor has shown that he is a very smart fighter. So he has good ring IQ, maybe a lot better than what most people thought. So if he gets inside on Postal, from the mental aspect again, and people might always mention it because boxing is 80% mental and 20% physical. So if he starts getting to Victor Postal to the body, how will he react to that? Postal's the type of guy that needs space. Josh Kelly, the only issue with Josh Kelly is he tends to have defensive lapses sometimes, where he's thinking too much on what to do instead of just doing it. And Postal can probably catch him with something big. You know, his chin has yet to be really questioned by somebody that can pop. So I like the fight, but all of them Joshes has really just been kind of impressive to me. Like I said, you got Warrington who just beat Lee Selby. Then of course you got Kelly. So, and Kelly, a very athletic fighter, very impressive fighter, so man, I'm just looking forward to it.
Gail, Daniel, Jacob, any quick thoughts?
I agree with what I've heard. It's going to be a good little fight. But that is far from the only fight across the Atlantic for American fans. You also have Anthony Yard in action. You also have Daniel Dubois in action. Very exciting young heavyweight prospect. And you are going to be able to see these fights if you are a subscriber to ESPN Plus. They are being picked up from, I think EJ's BT Sport, right? Is carrying that card. I think ESPN is just ESPN is just gonna pick it straight up, and that is exactly what that app should be doing. Good for ESPN. Already I certainly, from Crawford Horn and then getting to see this stuff, I've gotten my $5 out of it this month. I'm ready to go for another month in July, and so far I have not been disappointed at all.
So I think I might have to subscribe to that, man. If they put all that, I mean, I know I got BT Sports, but I think I think you think about Martin Murray is gonna go against Roberto Garcia. I think that's the main event because Billy Joe Saunders was supposed to go against Martin Murray. Obviously, he pulled out. So that's the fight in there. And
That's right. That's correct. Thanks for bringing that forward. Yeah.
Yeah, he wanted to fight Golovkin really badly, but he couldn't get the fight. Obviously, he beat Julio Sanchevez's son, and obviously he's got this fight. And both of them have. If you see the press conference, both of them definitely want it. They want it bad. They're talking about their wives and who they fight for, and that fight there, that might be the fight of the weekend because when you're breaking the fight, that's going to be a really gritty fight there. So look forward to that. The Daniel Bois versus what's his name, Tom Little. That fight there, he said some stuff and really upset Daniel Dubois that no one's ever said. And Daniel Dubois is a mold for like Anthony Joshua, so he's in that kind of mode where he doesn't really deal well with criticisms. So if you want to check the press conference, you can go to BT Sports on if you got the what's the thingy app, if you got the Periscope app, or you can just watch it on IFL on YouTube, and you can see how he really got into his head. And also you got Hara Davis, who's got a late opponent as well, the late opponent from the Congolese. And this opponent here, he's got his record the same as Hara Davis, and he another one was talking a bit of trash. So you have some really good fights there. Thanks for Gail brought that up as well, because it did go over my head. Over here it is late. So I should remember that because obviously I'm from UK, but that's how we are with boxing fans. We help each other out by mentioning other fights that we forgot.
Well, we got and on the surface, it seems like there's not a lot of boxing going on this weekend. There's a hell of a lot of boxing going on this weekend.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's all over the place. You're going to be able to see the Berchelt fight as Tekka is carrying it. I think ESPN is also carrying it. I think actually, if I recall, Live Network is carrying it. You have to get a little creative sometimes. If you dig behind sort of the obvious Saturday night, 9:00 Eastern stuff, there is boxing, great boxing, fun to watch boxing all over the world. Are they the household names? No. Will some of them become household names? Yeah, some of them will. And you're going to be able to saw them at this point of their career.
And you know what else to Gail's point is like a lot of times you get people like us who watch guys go through that masturation period from saying prospect to contender to champion, where some guys just watch him from contender to champion. So we watch it, but also
some guys just wait until they can buy the t-shirt,
Yeah.
What's the fun in that?
And also, EJ, I wanted to bring up what do you know about, because I heard Frank Warren deal, I believe, with Bach Nation ends July 2nd, and that was part of the reason why this Anthony Yarde fight wound up, because MTK, I believe, now is going to be picked up by Box Nation.
Yeah, I think they got rid of Queensbury, so
Queensbury, correct. Yep, that is correct.
They got rid of them. They got MT Global, who's going to be working with BT Sports, and I think he's gone that way. And it's a bigger platform. It's a platform in terms of, because Frank Warren has a lot of content. He owns all that content over the years because of his promotions. So basically, that channel is basically gonna be like it's just like an archive channel of all of his fights. Sometimes they might show live fights or not, depending on what they do. But it's kind of mainly be an archive, and also going to be showing MT Global is going to be showing live fights. But the guys they're showing it are really going to be low key guys, just like probably they making their debut and on the up and coming and that. So that's what they're going to do with that. People saying, is he going to abandon Box Nation? Totally, no, not really. But if you have Box Nation, they've come together as a package now. So if you have Box Nation, you have BT Sports and all their channels. With BT Sports, they obviously using that platform and that model is much better. It's almost like saying Sky. BT is not as big as Sky, but it's almost like that. And also, most people have BT Sports because they have the phone line, so it's easy in access for everyone to get. Another thing as well, I've got to mention, I'm going to be coaching this Friday in the Haringey Boxing Cup. That's also in the biggest amateur boxing tournament in Europe as well. And you have a lot of fighters from all over the world and, well, basically Europe coming into the tournament. So that's going to start Friday, Saturday, and it concludes on Sunday. If you win Friday, then you go forward to Saturday and so on. So I've got one of the fighters from our gym. So I'm going to be coaching him as well. I actually forgot about that as well. You know what I mean? So not only that is there in the pro level, on the amateur level that I'm in, and this is the last big tournament of the season as well. The season concludes on Sunday, so that there is that as well. And there'll be, I'm sure might be some live streams up to watch the amateur fights if you guys want to watch that in the daytime before the pro fight. So there's so much boxing in the world of boxing coming this weekend.
Oh, that's
From Friday.
That's what's up. I promise I'm going to Daniel and Jacob to talk about Taylor and Postal. But one final question, EJ. Is there any substance to this rumor I'm hearing that Billy Joe Saunders and the Gale could fight in September in London?
What?
You stole my question.
If you heard that, hey, listen. I don't know where you heard that. If there's, that's a great fight. And you know what Billy Joe's, because Billy, that makes sense because Billy Joe's, he don't really struggle that weight, but he could move up. If that fight is a possibility and Billy Joe's challenging himself, vacating the WBO belt to move up to challenge against James DeGale, if that fight was there, that's a huge
I'm hearing
fight.
September 15th in London. That's what I'm hearing.
Listen, you're hearing it before me, which is a shame because I usually got my ears to the ground like an American Indian, like a native Indian. I don't know what way. Like you guys get the information before me. If you're hearing that, at first listening to it, that is huge. I think that's big for BT Sports, and I think that fight will do very well in terms of selling it, marketing it. And I think maybe that will be their first pay-per-view fight where they're going to try and get people to pay money to watch that fight. If that goes through, I think that's a great for British boxing. That's great. That's great.
Indeed. I go to Daniel and Jacob. Your thoughts on Postal and Kelly?
Before that, is the Gale still with Hearn?
Yeah, he will. But yeah, Hearn still kind of promotes him. Yeah, he's with Al Heyman as a manager, but he's still being promoted by Frank Warren.
Oh, Frank Warren.
Frank Warren and Billy Joe Saunders have the same promoter, the same guys. So he's not. Eddie Hearn's not involved.
I know. Saunders is with Frank Warren. I was wondering about the Gale.
Yeah, he's with Frank Warren. He doesn't because Eddie Hearn. If you go with Eddie Hearn tried to change. He tried to tell you that you should be with his trainer Sims, and James DeGale never wants to be with that. That's why James DeGale went with Al Heyman because Al Heyman let him be who he was. That's why he mainly wasn't going to be in the UK. As you've seen, with Eddie Hearn, he kind of controls the fighters he manages and trainers and stuff like that. So, and also with Lee Selby. So Lee Selby never fight because Lee Selby won his world title against Granovich on thingy's card on the Joshua card the Kell Brook and Frankie Gavin card. But since then, he basically had a couple of fights and he left Eddie Hearn and he's been fighting in America. Because again, they kind of want to control you and tell you who you should fight and this and that. So no, James DeGale will be with Frank. He's with Frank Warren, so Frank Warren will be promoting that, and that's why obviously Michael's mentioned it because obviously Billy Joe Saunders and thing that they work together. They actually know each other. Actually, I think they probably sparred a couple each other. So it's more like an in-house fight. But they'll definitely put it on the line though. And also James DeGale looks like he's on the slide as well. Billy probably thinks he could take him. So it's a great fight.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was about to say. Because if I heard the Gale was still with Eddie, I'm like, oh, okay, so you're willing to put the Gale up in the same day as Canelo Triple G, but you're not willing to put your boy Joshua against Wilder in the same day. But I'm going to leave that for another time.
That's its own entity. It deserves its own entity.
That's what I mean. That's what I said. I'm going to leave that to its own time. As far as this fight, I'm with both. I need to know what the mental state is of Victor Postol, because the bad thing about it is he did so well against other fighters that sometimes the way he looked, particularly in that fight, like the first fight that really got him noticed was when he uppercutted the living daylights out of Cedric Iding and pretty much knocked him out. But ever since, like I said, he thought Matisse was the first guy to actually have Matisse to quit, but then just got flat out schooled by Bud. And he hasn't looked the right since. So this could be a good fight for Josh Taylor. Like I said, he's pretty scrappy. We know he can fight really, really well. And this is a good challenge because it is a former world champion. It is a former guy that you could probably say at one point would have been even close to being probably a top 20 fighter in the world. So it's a very good fight to me. And I just have to see where Visapasto's mindset is. And like Roberto Garcia versus, I feel bad for Martin Murray. I really do. Like Billy Ho fucked him over pretty bad, but at least he's got in a fight against pretty much the perennial 2 to 3 week guy, Roberto Garcia. But he has to look good because this is pretty much his last shot at being at least an audition for a world title shot. Whether if we're here now, maybe a vacant WBO title, or try to get the winner of the rematch Canelo Triple G, or even try to challenge the winner of whoever Berchelt fights for the IBF title. He has to impress and he has to look good, really good while doing it. Anthony Yarde and Daniel Dubois, those are 2 heavyweights that I said when I talked about Tyson Fury. Like he keeps slacking off in 1.5 years. Those 2 guys are going to pass him by, along with possibly Tony Yoka. Now, I did hear this little rumor. I did see this. I forgot somebody tweeted that there's some word around that Danny Dubois is not happy. The word got out that he got badly hurt or knocked out in sparring.
I heard that too.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's the rumors. That's the rumors been put out there. That's what that Tom Little was talking about. He was winding him up about it. But go on.
Yeah, that one's going to be interesting to see because Dubois has been between like Anthony Yarde and Daniel Dubois. I think I've put more emphasis on Dubois. He seems to be like more the polished guy because he is a like little bit of the Joshua mold in a way. So, but if he's easily rattled, that's not going to be good because we've seen good prospect heavyweights be derailed pretty easily, whether it's by own volition or own criticism. I mentioned Tony Yoka. Tony Yoka is pretty much banned for a year, I think, fighting right now because he refused to take a drug test. But on this one, both of them had to stand out because you're auditioning for Anthony Joshua. You're auditioning for Deontay Wilder. And you were positioning yourself to say, you don't have to discuss Tyson Fury. I'm one of the guys from the UK that you have to pay attention to. Not him. He's a has-been.
Last word, Jacob.
Not too much more to add. You know, Postol, he's an intriguing guy in the sense that I think he has skills to beat Taylor, but and to still be, you know, relevant. But, you know, he's had so much, you know, ever since that Crawford loss, he had that one fight and, you know, such long layoff. So that's never good. So you have to see, you know, how he comes back. And although I didn't see that fight, I'll take Bo's word for it. If he didn't look good in that fight, that's not a good sign. So this could be, you know, maybe this is what Taylor's team saw, saying like, hey, this guy's on his way out. So let's get him while we can, and you know, get that name on our record. Even though, you know, I think he's like 12 fights in or what have you. So you know, we'll have to see. And then just to kind of jump on top of what Gail was saying, you know, in the sense of, you know, this ESPN Plus app, you know, for me, it's worth the $5. I mean, they're picking up all these fights. You also have, you know, other content on there that you have access to. Their 30 for 30 series, which is like one of my favorite, you know, all those episodes are awesome. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff. It's not just boxing. There's a bunch of stuff that they have available to you. So I think she says it all the time. I mean, I could find $5 in my couch or in my, you know, my car. So, you know, it's to me, it's worth it.
You can only find $5 in your couch because you ain't got kids yet.
He is a kid. What are you talking about?
I got two kids.
Yeah, I think we're going to start shutting things down on that note. I didn't start the show with ladies first, but I'm going to end the show starting with ladies first. Gail from Communities Digital News, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk small business advice, for those who want to talk environmental issues or Game of Thrones. Let the people know where they can find you.
You bet. It's on Communities Digital News. That's my boxing home, besides the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, which is COMM, COMM, Digi, DIGI News, comdiginews.com.
Joining us live from the UK, EJ Boxing live on one of my UK boxing homies, my boxing brethren, if you will. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk basketball, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, add Westworld to that as well, and Game of Thrones. I haven't done anything on Westworld, but I should do.
Well, you got to have something while we're all waiting for that last season, EJ.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
You know,
killing me.
Yeah, after they do Westworld, Game of Thrones usually comes straight after. So we have to see it now. And also, I'll cover the big three coming up. I think the big three is this Friday, so there's so much going on. Anyway, EJ Boxing Live on YouTube, EJ Boxing Live on Twitter. EJ Boxing Live on Instagram. So you can check out me on them formats, and also on Pound for Pound Boxing Report, and also on weekends when I do hangouts. Yo, that's where you can find me, man.
I want to give a shout out to MB, Sean, EJ, he was in the chat as well as Hop. Thank everybody from joining us in the live YouTube chat. Jacob from Jab Hook. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk movies, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for having me on, and shout out to everybody listening. And it's nice having Bo back and the regulars. We had some, I think, smaller shows before, but and EJ and whatnot. All these guys do good work and good commentating, and I like conversating with them. But yeah, I can be found on Twitter, JRATM23, or want to talk about movies or boxing. And actually, I'll throw this out there. I'm trying to get back into writing for my site more often. Try to put out like at least an article per week. If anybody's interested in doing some pieces, hit me up, DM me on Twitter, and I'll see if we can get you on there.
That's right, Jacob from Jab Hook, Daniel from the Inscriber. For those who want to talk boxing, for those who want to talk the NBA, the Miami Heat specifically, let the folks know where they can find you. And also, looks like your own podcast, it may find a new home. Speak on it.
Well, the Inscriber Network may be relaunching like at the radio network. We just have to probably figure out what days are going to be in between, but I'm still going to try to put it on SoundCloud as well. Like I said, but at forboxingnews.com as well has the podcast as well. We always have a backup. That's me, Joe Francis, and you can find me on Twitter, Ruckus99. And like I said, we'll definitely, it's a top boxing, top basketball, and it's just enough. Like I said, we're definitely going to look forward to next week as pretty interesting card. What's going to happen in ESPN. Zurdo Ramirez now with no longer having a partner for title unification because Dave Benavidez decided to stay with Heyman.
Indeed. Last but certainly not least, both from Truth and Facts about boxing as well as Three Kings Boxing. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to follow the adventures of you and your daughter, let the folks know where they can find you and talk about how you kind of expanded your scope in terms of your own sports thing.
Yeah, I've changed the name of the show. It's now Truth and Facts Sports Talk. Well, I will be talking basketball, football, which originally wasn't my first love. I've had a helmet and a pair of cleats long before I've ever looked at a boxing glove, and that's always been my true love.
Like I said, if you want to talk NFL or college football, holla at a brother.
Oh man, I'm definitely gonna get at you because I've never Nick Saban is I call him Nick Satan. And I've never liked him. I give him credit for his teams. I just never liked him. And Bama and Auburn and the history of the oak tree that sits over there in Auburn and all of that stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be getting at you. I also want to get over at Daniel to talk some basketball. Him and Jacob, LeBron James lovers. I want to get them on and and murk them too. Miami ain't doing it no more. I'm sorry, baby. Miami not doing it no more,
baby. Dude. Just because no. Okay, first of all, just because I don't shit on LeBron every chance that anybody gets does not make you a stand. A stand would actually forgive what he's done in 2010 and 2014 the way he did it. I don't. Because he just basically did the same thing in 2014. He just did it with better PR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I'll be talking. I'll be talking that. Also, I'm gonna probably looking at. We call it soccer. Try to do some football and even MMA. So I'm definitely expanding. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. The one sport that's going to be hard is baseball. because I do like baseball. It's just talking about it, you know, and watching it is two different things. It can be very hard, horrible. You know, anytime a pitcher blames his defense, his players, because he had a 5 inning ERA, he need his head examined. Why don't you stop putting the ball above in between the chest and the goddamn waist, and the ball won't be in the field like that? But anyway, in any event, I'm just glad to be here, man. Of course, you can find me at with my guys from the movement. Shout out to them. Of course, Three Kings Boxing. Well, I write articles right here on Pound for Pound. Sometimes I am on EJ's a live hangout, and of course, always a pleasure being on Pound for Pound and with Joe and Francis, with my man Daniel over there too. So I'm just glad to be here back once again. Me and my family sends special prayers out to Gail and her family. You know, our prayers are with you and your family, and you know, you have a special place in our heart. Also, shout out to Carlos de la Torre, who is the sheriff who sat down and me and him did an interview. He has a boxing gym called Century Sheriff Boxing Gym, and his gym sits in between South Central, Watts, and Compton. So that that interview has been dropped, and I'm just, you know, hey, it's an exciting time. Like we said, all this boxing stuff going on, and all the news you guys heard is because you have people that are in the sport that actually, you know, we love it. So we look for things to talk about, and this is why I love doing this show.
Also want to give a shout out to past guest Gus. He hasn't been on in a while. Like I said a few weeks ago, he's been dealing with some tragedy in his family. So a big shout out to him. Also, want to make note, if you're a fan of pro wrestling, you probably heard the news that Big Van Vader passed away earlier today as a result of heart complications at age 63. I remember him watching him back when I was young. So he was one of my favorite wrestlers. So rest in power to one, Big Van Vader.
Hey Mike, one last thing. Me and my daughter hadn't been talking for 2 weeks. We got into an argument. We hadn't talked for 2 weeks, but as always, the king prevailed. She finally broke down and spoke to me first. So all you guys out there that got a problem with your women, stop talking to them. Eventually, they'll cave.
Shit.
No comment.
Wait. Does this mean that Gail's gonna talk to Chavez Jr. and Broner eventually?
You know what?
You're assuming I ever talked to those bastards in the first place.
Oh wow!
No.
For those who want to talk the sweet sides, for those who want to talk fitness, for those who want to talk music, you know what it is on Twitter. Brother JR at Brother JR76. As I said to begin the show, if you want to find out all things regarding Pound for Pound Box Report, the blog page is the place to go to, P4P boxingreport.wordpress.com. That's the link. Check the Riley page. You'll find them for our channels and pages, Facebook, G+, YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr, as well as where to listen to us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Player FM for the folks in the UK, as well as Mixcloud. On the next episode, we will do a recap of Shields, Gabriel, Christina, Hammer, Tori Nelson, Berchelt, Victor Barrios, Postal fighting on Postal's fight against Josh Kelly. No. Yeah, one of the Joshes. Bo had me so confused about how he liking all the Joshes. Taylor. Yeah, I got him confused. And we may also talk Dubois and Anthony Yard fighting on the same card. Let me just say quickly, Yard and Boutsy. That's the fight I want to see at 175 eventually over in England. I'm just putting that out there, EJ. And we would also do a preview of the aforementioned Zerto Ramirez, who's going to be fighting on ESPN, defending his belt, in Oklahoma. So there you go. Episode 212 is in the books. I want to thank Gail from Communities Digital News, EJ Boxing Live, Jacob from Jab Hook, Daniel from The Inscriber, both from Truth and Facts About Sports now. Thank everybody again who joined us in the chat. Hop, Sean, MB, EJ, who was in the chat earlier. This has been episode 212 of Pound for Pound Box Report. We will see you guys next time, everybody. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.
Good night.
Folks.